if you like the video, and I don't know why you wouldn't, be sure to hit that bell.
I have with me here on Connie's Country Gospel Corner a young lady from Grubbs, Arkansas. Their group is known as the Haskins Family Band, and I want to welcome Mama, Amber Haskins, to the program, and I'd like her to tell you, first of all, about her three little charges in the group.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you, Connie?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, I am a mom of 4 boys, and 3 of my boys sing and play with me. My 2 oldest, Charlie and Keygan. Charlie plays, he's 10, and he plays the mandolin. Keygan is 8, and he plays the guitar, and then David plays his vocal cords. He can best it out for a little 6-year-old.
Yeah, that's really
but they
cool.
all sing with me. We all harmonize together, and we just love doing that as a family.
Well, I heard just enough of these kids to know they've got a talent that's inside of them, and I think it's exciting that you're doing what you're doing. Now, the music that you do is basically kind of a gospel, bluegrass, folk kind of thing?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we do for the most part. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
We do other songs as well. Like if we come across a song we really like, what I would like to do in the future is kind of take contemporary songs and turn them into bluegrass or country gospel. I think that would be fun to put a little twist on songs like that.
Mm-hmm. Amber, before we go a whole lot farther, we've talked about what you're doing right now with the boys, and I'd like to go back to your past. I'd like to go back to your childhood, find out what it is that brought you to where you are at with your music right now. And so if you could share a little of that with us, that would be wonderful.
Well, my dad's a pastor, so he was called into the ministry before I was even born. That's all I've known is ministry. And I have 3 siblings. I have 2 sisters and a brother, and we all would sing together. And I remember sitting in church every Sunday by my mama, and she had just a beautiful alto voice. And, I'd hear the song leader up front, and he'd be singing the lead. So my whole life, I just heard harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And it just spoke to me. I love the music. I love hymns. I love all songs that speak truth about God and His Word and how we should live our lives, but also how comforting He is to us and how He's there for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had that music in me, and I was just an average singer growing up. I didn't consider myself outstanding or anything, but I did choir in high school and everything. Mm-hmm. But we just sang in our church. That's all we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to high school, I met a man by the name of Johnny Miller at church camp, and I don't know what he saw in me, but he saw something in me, and he asked me to come and intern for him at one summer and go with him to a church camp up in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were up there, he knew I could sing a little bit.
Yeah.
And he wanted me to sing this song. It's actually, the title of the song is The Lion and the Lamb, and Crystal Lewis sings it. I mean, Crystal Lewis, she has got a powerhouse of a voice.
Okay.
And I looked at him like he was crazy, and I was like, you want me to sing that?
I gotcha.
And so he's like, yeah, I want you to sing it. I know you can do it. And I was just floored. I couldn't believe it. And so grudgingly, I bought the CD. I didn't want to, and took it back to the camp, and I was practicing all the time. Practice. And it sounded awful. I mean, it was just like nails on a chalkboard awful.
Oh my gosh.
Like I was getting mad at Johnny Miller because I was like, how dare you ask me to sing the song and embarrass myself in front of all these people here.
Yeah.
But it was the last night he wanted me to sing it. And I got up there, I can remember sitting on the front pew right before I was supposed to go up to sing, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, Amber, this is not about you.
Right.
This is about me.
Right.
it's not about how you sound.
Oh,
What matters here today is that you are giving me the glory.
awesome. Yeah.
And I just had this peace come over me. I get goosebumps every time I tell this story.
Yeah,
I had this peace come over me, and I get up there, I start singing that song, and Connie, it was not me singing. It was somebody else.
Kind of took you by surprise.
I was in shock as I was singing. And here I am singing, and then I start crying, but I'm still singing. And I'm not, if I cry, I can't sing at the same time. I just, it's like I sound like a opera singer. But that day, that night, it was clear as a bell. I was belting it out like Crystal Lewis, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And that's the day God gave me the gift of really singing
The music.
my heart out.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you had mentioned.
And then
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to. You mentioned about the guitar. I'd like to hear you share about that.
Well, later that night, after I was given the gift of singing like that, we went back to the counselor's cabin, and there was some guys sitting around playing the guitar, and I said, "Man, I would love to be able to play guitar."
Yeah.
And Johnny, actually, I think it was his friend Keith that was sitting there with him, handed me a guitar, and he said, "Well, here, let me show you some chords, and you can practice and try along with us." And he showed me some chords, and I almost immediately started playing that guitar.
Wow.
And he was blown away. He said, "I've never seen anybody do that." He said, "You have been gifted by God for sure." And he bought me my very first guitar.
Wow.
And because he couldn't believe it. He said, well, he could. He could believe it,
Yes.
But he was just blown away. He said, "I've got to buy you a guitar. You cannot go home without a guitar. You've got to practice, and you've got to use this gift."
Yes. And how old were you at that time?
I was 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome, Amber. I love that story, and I know that is how God works. He works in miraculous ways, his wonders to perform. So
Definitely. Most definitely. And I remember thinking before that even happened, I would hear others tell stories of these miraculous things that happen in their lives, and I just didn't believe them. I was like, that doesn't really happen. Almost like I didn't have faith in the power of God anymore. And boy, he showed me.
I was going to say you got education number one.
Yes, exactly.
How cool is that? So now you've been doing the music pretty much ever since.
Yes, ma'am. I've been playing and singing ever since. I've been asked to go lead worship at several like women's retreats. Whenever I was living in Oklahoma before we moved here to Arkansas, I led the music at their state meeting. I'm a Frugal Baptist, and we have they have state meetings every year, once a year, and we have worship service, and they asked me to lead music for that. They have a group called Women Active for Christ in Oklahoma and Arkansas, and it's like a retreat, and they have asked me to lead the music. And in fact, this weekend I'm leading music at a pastor's wives retreat.
Wow. That's
and
wonderful.
that is my heart. I love leading worship. I love leading people, and I love bringing in the presence of God into a room.
I don't blame you. That's awesome. That's a special gift. It really, truly is. Now,
I agree.
How did you go from, I'm sure you still do your single singing, your music singly, but how did you come to get the boys so involved in what you're doing?
Well, let's see. It's been it's about 2.5 years ago. My two oldest sons, Charlie and Keygan, they wanted instruments for their Christmas.
Okay.
And Keygan, he was 6 at the time, but since he was like 4, he was asking for a guitar. He wanted a guitar so bad. He wanted to learn to play a guitar. And so we finally decided, okay, 6 years old, I guess 6 is the number. We're going to get you a guitar. And then Charlie, our oldest one, he actually wanted to play the banjo first. We started him out with the mandolin because starter mandolins are a lot cheaper than starter banjos. There's not really a starter banjo, but we didn't want to buy an expensive instrument and then not invest their time in it, and we were out so much money.
Yeah.
But man, they have taken off with it. They just do so good. And since they've got so, I've always had them singing in church since they were little.
Mm-hmm.
And just this past, it's been a year ago now. Charlie, my oldest, he has always loved singing, and he has a very strong singing voice, and he's very confident in his singing. Well, my second oldest, Keygan, he is not, and he would not sing for years. And just last year in January, he told me, he said, "Mama, I think I want to sing."
Okay.
And I was like, "Well, boy, howdy, here we go. We're going to get you singing, man." And so I work with him on the harmonies, but what's amazing is Keygan at 8 years old, and he was doing this at 7, actually. He's 8 now, but at 7 years old was picking out harmonies without me even teaching them to him.
Yeah, they'll come automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are not hard to teach at all. I can just sing through something a couple of times, and they've got it.
And now the little guy, what does he do?
David, he's 6, and he has got the pipes, man. He can belt it out for a 6-year-old. And he's funny, too. Oh, you never know what is going to happen when you're on that stage with him.
He's going to be a comedian, too.
He is definitely our comedian, that is for sure.
That is so cute. He
loves getting up there. He loves singing with his big brothers.
Yes.
And I'm glad he does it, too.
Yeah. So have you done quite a bit of singing out so far? You're just getting started?
Yeah, we're just getting started. We have sang at, I believe, 2 or 3 different churches since we announced that if you want us to come, we don't charge anybody.
Yeah.
We just want the opportunities to sing. But, we've had 2 churches ask us to come, and we've got another church that we're going to this next month.
Yeah. Well, I got to listen to you and the boys recently when you sang at Mount Bethel Free Will Baptist Church in Rosebud, Arkansas. And they streamed the service that night. And in talking to my publisher, Roger Wood Sr. from Push Mountain Publishing, we talked about my need to have someone to interview for Connie's Country Gospel Corner for this month, and he suggested my speaking to you. And it really struck a chord in my heart because, I was brought up, like you were talking about, I was brought up with the music in the church. My father was a minister, and I played guitar from the time I was about 6, so I can relate. And we did a lot of harmonies. A lot of it happened around my mother's old Ringer washing machine.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great memory, for sure.
Yeah. So if people are wanting to get a hold of you, Amber, what would be a good way for them to do this?
They can send me an email. My email is amberleehaskins@gmail.com, and that's AmberleeGhaskins@gmail.
All right.
If you want to keep up to date with us, I am very active on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel called the Haskins Family Blog. We do songs, and we also do a day in the life. I share recipes, my favorite recipes. I may share something about homeschooling, just a little bit here and there. But if you just want to keep up with our family, that is there.
Well, it sounds like you have the old-fashioned way of living as well. Just like you mentioned, homeschooling. I like to see people do that sort of thing. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm thankful we're able to do that for sure.
Yeah. And Amber, as long as we're on the topic of your home life, I heard through Roger a fascinating thing about you and your family. You mentioned having 4 children, and it's obvious you have 3 that sing with you. So I'm going to ask you about this 4th child in your home. His name is Byron, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about this miraculous boy.
Well, back in September of last year, 2018, my Aunt Mary passed away, and she has a son who has Down syndrome. It's my cousin. He's 37 years old. And before she had died, my husband and I had discussed it with one another, saying, we weren't sure where Byron would go if something ever happened to her, because it was just them 2 living together. And we said, we feel led to take care of him, you know. And we spoke with my Aunt Mary, and she was just so emotional with us, you know, even offering that. She said, I can't tell you how much that means to me, because that's definitely a fear of, you know, that was a fear of hers, what would happen to Byron if something happened to her, because he can't take care of himself on his own. He has to have someone helping him. So anyway, September came, and Byron has a dad. His dad lives in Micronesia, and he has a brother, and he lives in Fort Smith, but neither one of them were really able to take care of him for, you know, certain other reasons and such. But my Aunt Mary had never put it in writing that she wanted us to take care of him. She just knew that was an offer that we had made.
Right.
Well, we had spoke with his brother, and his brother said, we feel that this is what our mom would have wanted, and you are who Byron wants to go to and live with. He doesn't want to stay with me. He wants to stay with you guys, and we want what's best for Byron.
Yeah.
So that was just another God thing of him just, you know, we didn't know how hard of a process that would be trying to get him, but, I mean, it all worked out. And since having Byron, man, I mean, that's a whole nother story for another day. The Lord has just, the Lord has just blessed it. I mean, he had some really bad health issues. He still has health issues, but his health has improved so much since being with us. He has such a joy about him. Yeah. And
a happy heart, huh?
Oh, definitely. He is so happy. And of course, there's also the tough times where he doesn't quite understand situations, and he may have a breakdown, and it's just part of not quite mentally being there and understanding the full concept of certain things. But he has changed. He has such a joy about him, even more than he did before. He was joyful before, but I think it's grown.
Yeah. Well, I watched a little bit of the YouTube picture, and I was just really, really impressed, you know, with your interactions with him, and the love and the care. And I'm telling you, there's something, Roger and I were just talking last night about what a happy heart does for a person, to have a happy heart.
Oh, yeah.
And so I can see where that would really help the boy, and that's wonderful.
And, you know, for someone who has a disability like him, he would have the excuse to be down in the dumps all the time, but he just exudes joy. I mean, why can't we all be more like that? It's just an example to us. You know, we have it so much easier. And why should we complain about things? I mean, he loves everybody. There is nobody on his list that he is just X'd off, and we just love him. He's a good example to us.
I was going to say that has to do something for your young boys growing up too.
Yes, they love him, and especially Davy boy. He's my third son. He's the 6-year-old, and them two really have a bond.
Wow.
David loves to go and give him hugs and tell him, I just love you, Byron. And Byron, you know, he'd be like, oh, you're so sweet. You know.
That's awesome.
So cute.
Yes. Well, I appreciate your taking time to share your story about this, because, and when it was brought to my attention, I didn't want to miss it, you know. Well, you know, I don't get around the countryside, so my chances of probably running into you are rather slim. But I'm really happy that I got to meet you first of all through Mount Bethel Church, and get to talk to you here today. And I'm looking forward very much to what you have to do. You know, what else is going to be down the road for you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you asking me to speak for you and talk to you. It's been a joy.
Well, thank you, Amber. I would like to ask, is there something special that you feel on your heart that you would like to share with the people?
You know, here lately, I've been kind of discouraged, and you know, we all go through discouragement.
Yes. Yeah.
And kind of like you feel you're working so hard to do things and to minister, because I'm a pastor's wife.
Yes.
And it seems you don't see the fruits of those labor, but you go to Scripture and you read all of these men and women in the Bible who worked so hard for the Lord, and they may never have seen the fruits of their labor, but you know, farther down in Scripture, there are fruits of the work that they have done.
Yes.
There's a song that we sing, in fact, called "Bury the Workmen." It's actually talking about persecution and people giving their lives for Christ, but it kind of goes along with it. These people have gone; they're dead now, but God's work hasn't died. It's still moving on.
Yeah. Oh, and that gives me chills just thinking about it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can bury the workmen, but God's work is going to go on no matter what. And our reward will be in heaven.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'd like to take that song right there and use it as a feature song on the program, because I have heard you sing it, and I think you do a wonderful job. The boys do wonderful on their parts too. And it's easily understood. So I'm glad that you brought that up. It's something that our friends here can listen to and really consider and think about. So.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for joining me here on the program, Amber.
Hey, YouTube family. This is like take 10 of us trying to do this song.
5.
Is it 5?
5.
Seems like 10. Anyways.
Seems like 2 million.
We're gonna try again. This song is called "Bury the Workmen." We have not ever uploaded a video of me and the boys singing and playing for you guys.
So we have done it on Facebook Live, so you may have seen us there.
Yes, if you're not I used to be on Facebook. I'm not anymore, but we do have a Facebook page. It's not very active. It's called the Haskins Family Band on Facebook. We only have two videos up of us singing and playing. So, anyways, this song's called "Bury the Workmen," and I'm hoping and praying that it works out this time.
They dragged him out the city gates.
messed up.
I did that. My
Okay.
voice cracked right before we started singing.
Yeah, our voices are about worn out, but
Yeah.
we're still learning. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you loved it. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, y'all.